Yeah, I'm sure, bro. I can't sit with all the stuff.
Okay,
that's
guys, welcome to yet another episode of the BMX show. So today we've got a very special guest.
Drum roll.
A guest. I had to literally make sure that she gets here. I've been trying, and eventually she just decided to come. So, welcome, Blanche.
Thank you, B.
It's good to have you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for
Welcome.
having me.
Yeah.
So you are now, by association, a part of this family. So we're very pleased to have you.
Thank you so much, B.
So feel at home. So yeah, I'm going to just open the floor now because I'm sure everyone is eager.
We are anxious.
So guys, I've actually prepared this topic for today because I felt like with all the recent events that we've actually seen, this is quite the perfect time to actually tackle this topic and actually talk about it, with an open mind. Are substances the root cause of illicit behavior?
And which substances are you referring to?
So by substances, I of course mean alcohol, drugs, you name them. So are they the root cause of illicit behavior? And while you are still meditating on that, right, I'm going to just maybe brief you through a very interesting story that I just came across the other day. So Demi Lovato, whom I'm very deeply fond of, recently went to the Joe Rogan show, right? While at it, she had some interesting revelation to make. So I just want to quote her, and then this topic is going to become more clearer.
Okay, perfect.
So I'm going to read. So Demi says, I often say, and this is hard for people to hear sometimes, but I think that drugs save my life at times. Because had I not had something to meditate with, I wouldn't be here. I would have taken my life by now. I have dealt with suicidal ideation since I was 7 years old, and that's just something that's always been a part of my journey. I don't know why. So that's the first step of it, right? There's a second part, and then it's going to tie everything very well.
Okay.
So here I come. There was a period of time where I thought to myself, I'm so miserable. I'm still sober. And I'm now sober again. And still so unhappy. What am I doing?
Was that it?
That's it.
Okay.
So remember what I said to you. I said, are substances the root cause of illicit behavior? Now, take a Demi Lovato, whom at 7 years old, she hasn't contacted any substance. But she has suicidal ideations. Right? By the time she became 12, which was her first encounter with substance, the problems already existed. Right? But oftentimes, and obviously, there's a plethora of people where I come from who've actually fell victim to substance abuse. And the common ending of the story is it's because of substance abuse. So I want us
to unravel.
Exactly. Is it really substance abuse that's the problem here? Because it seems like it's the end of the story and not the beginning of it. Where does this thing start? Where does it originate? What do you think?
That's an interesting one, but I actually want to go back a little bit before answering your question there. I
feel like I've been talking for so long.
Yeah, and I actually want to touch base on that. You know how Brian starts his thing? He calls me. It's like, Miguel, I have this interesting conversation. It always is the same. Just like now he said, there's this interesting thoughts, interesting conversation. I'm like, This guy always starts with the same things, and I'm like, I'm sure one of the days I'm gonna catch him out where it's not actually interesting. But again, he actually blew my mind because I was like, okay, wait, this is down another rabbit hole that we always find ourselves dwelling into, and it's a really interesting and a deep conversation. I actually found it very interesting because obviously we would have had personal experiences and seeing what people are actually going through from the different substances. So not only alcohol, and that's a very important one that we why I actually asked you which substances are you referring to, because okay, alcohol would obviously be one of the most common ones and the most affordable, but there's actually quite a few others that we know of. And I kind of agree, because I see you answered your question already. You asked the question and you answered it with Demi Lovato's statement. So you actually didn't give us time to ponder on it. But I guess, it's our time to actually maybe bring our own perspectives to the matter.
For sure.
I also don't want to dwell too much because it feels like I'm talking too much now. But when I thought about the topic, right, and what Demi Lovato said, I was like, there's always an underlying cause that we've spoken about in some of our previous sessions. And those issues that maybe have not been dealt with, that has now resulted in people maybe seeking some type of experience or pleasure that they didn't get at the time of maybe growing up, or whatever time in their lives that they actually experience maybe some form of hardship. And when I actually researched on some of the drugs or substances, let me put it that way, that people are actually making use of, and I was like, okay, what are the benefits, so to speak? And I'm using benefits very loosely, I know. But they were speaking about some type of psychoactive feeling that goes into the brain, and it actually elevates your certain chemicals in the body, serotonin and all those type of things. So
does that cause you to
feel a certain way?
Okay.
Better than maybe that you felt prior to you making use of the substances. So the question then comes about, why would you need to get to that point? Because these are chemicals that can be induced naturally.
Right. So while I agree with you on that front, but let's understand this, right? You've done something, right?
Yeah.
Or you've conducted some illicit behavior. Let's put it that way. And now, because often it takes away accountability and responsibility, because ultimately we're going to pin it to
the substance abuse.
Substance.
Yeah.
Oh, I did this because I was
but
on.
there's actually a root cause.
Right? But there's actually a root cause.
Yeah.
So because now we always pin it to the drug, right? Blame it on the alcohol, Jamie Foxx.
The booze.
Right? Because we always blame it on the alcohol.
Yeah.
Then accountability shifts. It's almost like a deflection tactic, right? So attention shifts to
the substance.
Yeah. Let's boycott alcohol. But actually, we could all sit here and have a drink, right? But we're gonna react in different ways.
Absolutely.
You go home, you become a nightmare. I go home, I become
a
joy, right? So how can this one substance possibly have two different outcomes when consumed the exact same way? So if the problem was indeed the substance, then why isn't she acting the same way, or why aren't we acting the same
That's a good
way?
point.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Blanche, what do you think? I'm sure people are dying to hear your voice.
Well, if you're looking at it from that perspective, I definitely also think there's always a root cause to it, because exactly to what you're saying, Brian, the way you will react, I would have to ask the question, okay, so what is Brian going through? If Brian's life is calm and cool and collected and there's no issues, right? And Brian has a wine or a beer and he's cool, then there's no issues. Now, Blanche, on the other hand, may be a depressive. I may be having issues at home. And now I'm going to the alcohol and having that tequila or having that, whatever it is that I'm drinking. Jameson, right? And I'm drinking it just to drown that pain and that sorrow. And what happens? Like you're saying, you end up becoming this absolute nightmare because everything that you're feeling when you maybe react in that specific way to alcohol, it's maybe to drown, or you're hiding behind a stronghold, or you're hiding behind pain or suffering, whatever it is that you're going through. If your life is not in a healthy state. So if you're healthy and I'm unhealthy, there may be definitely a different reaction to alcohol. So I do agree with that.
X-Men.
Yeah, I'm just listening.
Obviously, we're all gonna be grounded in truth. So this is not by any means an advertorial for the alcohol industry and the drug industry. We all know, like in some cases, obviously, it has actually caused,
Havoc.
Yes, havoc, if you put it that way. But let's not really like shift accountability and just throw everything to substance and alcohol.
Yeah.
When actually we are the consumers.
Look, I fully agree with you, right? But I think there's another element to it as well. Because you
What's
see,
that element?
the
Lay
point
it down.
I was raising earlier about the effects on the system. So although they may be different from person to person, there's commonalities because ultimately we are we have our individual personas and characteristics that make us who we are, right? So sometimes you might find naturally I'm reserved, whereas X-Men might be, as we all know him, to be out of the box, just as an example.
That sounds bad.
I know it does.
That really sounds bad.
I withdraw my statement, Chair. I withdraw. No, but like a person that's, more bubbly and stuff. So it may just enhance their type of persona. Whereas a person like me that's maybe more reserved, it may actually make me even more reserved. And I would kind of feel a bit more like I'm drowning or be
even
more
aggressive.
It could be as well. So it does tie back to your point about what you're saying, that it's not necessarily the substance, right?
Yeah.
But then again, there's certain functions in the brain that gets triggered by these substances.
Absolutely.
And those the triggers could result in
Yes.
certain things like aggressive behavior as one of them. So it is something that's been scientifically proven. So it's not to say that it's the substance that enhances.
So wait. So maybe like walk me through this so that I can actually understand you better. So you're saying that like you could be a completely different person, right? Like you could be calm, you could be nice, and upon consuming substance, you could literally become something else.
Well,
Could become an aggressive person.
ultimately, it's still you. But I
Yes,
think
but
it's a trigger to a different part of you.
A
It's
different part-
probably, it could be...
a part
it's
unbeknownst to you.
It's
That's what you're
probably
saying.
another part that wants to come out,
Uh-huh.
but not when they're sober. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Because you
it's
lose your
e-
inhibitions when
yes.
you're on drugs, when you're on alcohol.
Exactly.
It's like almost it reminds me of what do you call that when you call yourself? What does Beyonce call herself? She's got that
Sasha Fierce.
yeah, but
the alter ego.
your alter ego. That's
Yeah.
what I'm looking for. It's almost like your alter
Yeah,
ego comes
very
out.
I'm so surprised you're the first one to jump at this. I'm like, what do you know about Beyonce?
Yeah, exactly. It's like your alter ego coming out. It's that person that's normally maybe like you're saying reserved, suppressed, and maybe now when you're drinking alcohol, you become this. I know a lot of people like that. They become very outspoken and outgoing, but I also feel that when it comes to substance, whether it's alcohol, whether it's drugs, I do believe that they all play, or at least they all trigger a different behavior. And if you look at, there's a range of drugs. There's tons of, and I'm speaking specifically about that substance. That all, let me rather say it like this, that they all trigger in a different way.
Yeah, 100%, yes.
They all
Yeah.
trigger, all the substance will trigger in a different
different,
way.
exactly.
You react in a different way. If you take LSD, you
Yeah.
act in a different way. When you're smoking marijuana, you'll maybe become a bit more
Different,
reserved.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly. Yeah.
So
But yeah,
okay, so like basically what I'm hearing here is that this whole thing is rapacious, right? And it takes advantage of your weakness because maybe it's something that you want to express, as you would have said earlier.
Yeah.
On, that it might be something that you want to express, you want to let out,
Yeah, but you can't.
but you can't.
Yeah, and now you have, as you've mentioned, you know, you don't want to take accountability when you're sober, so now you have the substance,
Oh,
and now
play
you're
the
saying
blame
like it's the substance.
game.
I see.
It's the substance, yeah.
And a lot of people, I think you're right, Xavier, because a lot of people will say that. I mean, I've said it with my own mouth on a personal front, but not particularly to me, but to a situation or a personal situation in my own life where the person was using.
Yeah.
And knowing the person when the person is not using, and knowing the person when they're used, I would say it's not. I don't want to say it's not their fault, but I always looked at the person like, I know that's not you. I know that's not you. So it's because of that substance that causes you to become aggressive, that causes you to become this horrible human. You know, because I know you without it.
Yeah.
You know, it makes them aggressive, and that's why I say certain drugs do certain things and cause specific behaviors as a result of taking that.
Yeah.
You know, and I think maybe it's just about the person that I am that you don't want to believe that that's the person. So
Yeah.
it's like it can't be.
Yeah.
It cannot
Yeah.
be. It has to be that.
Yeah.
You know, that's why we blame the substance.
So you, by denying this newfound behavior, right, that you most probably not used to, but now you are kind of like denying it, that that's not you, but it's happening, right? But it's not you because I've seen you better, right? Doesn't that take away accountability, because you are denying
I
that?
don't think so, B. And the reason I say that it doesn't take away accountability because the person is still responsible for the behavior.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
If you are going to choose to abuse any substance, whether it's alcohol, drugs, whatever the case may be, there's always consequences to your actions and your
Yeah.
behavior, right? And that's something that you will have to face.
Yeah.
Whether you're inflicting pain on your family, whether you are breaking up your home, whether you are going and causing havoc and ending up in jail, whether
Yeah.
you're going to end up murdering someone as a result, whatever the case may be, there's always consequences to your action. And that's where the accountability lies. But I think, just to answer that, where you're talking about whether it changes the person's behavior and who they are, yes, it does. But the accountability still lies with the person. Why? Because the person chose. You had a choice. You had
Yes.
a choice.
Yes.
You could have either taken that drugs or you didn't, but you chose to do it. And that's where you have to be held accountable.